Alright, so these really are basic biology concepts that I'm pretty sure you should have gotten in elementary school. So I'm a little bit concerned about this. Parasites, this is correct, predator-prey, crocodile wildebeest, we've seen the videos. By the way, I would suggest you check out Snoop Dogg's version of it.
Yeah, I saw it here.
If you want to have a more urban interpretation of the interactions there. Pollination is a process. That's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's close enough that you know what I'm talking about goes on between those two. I'll give you the point. What's the name for when two organisms help each other?
Symbiotic.
Well, symbiotic's all of these. Somebody get that for me, please.
Isn't it?
Say
I know it starts with an M. I
mutually.
knew it started with an M. I knew it. Hello, Sam.
Mutualism. Okay.
Who? Is Miss Naris here?
Naris. No, you got the wrong classroom.
No, you have the wrong.
Probably the wrong Campbell. He needs David Campbell's. That's who he's looking for, or if they, or whoever it is looking for. All right. So, commensalism is when one organism is unaffected and the other organism benefits. Okay. I can't really. Now, fish is too vague. An eel
is close.
How? I mean, what?
What do you mean how? I mean, it's close. I mean, I just looked up a frill chart. That thing looked just like a.
Oh yeah, that's a good answer.
It's communalism.
Commensalism. Remora.
What?
The remoras are the things. You guys don't know what remoras are? The ones that hang on to them. Yeah.
They're the Pokemon.
All right. So they hitch a ride. It doesn't really affect the shark. They get to eat the scraps that the shark doesn't eat, and they get a ride. They get transportation. You have a situation oftentimes with these species where they're competitive. Almost all of them are in some way. That means their niches overlap. They both have the same needs. If needs are part of your niche. When that happens, you have competition. A lot of times. Organisms are smarter than we are, let's face it, in the way they adapt to things. Rather than constantly fighting over the same resource all the time, they will divide up that resource, and one will use part of it, another one will use another part of it. This is called niche partitioning. If we have time, when I get through this, I'll come back and give you an example. Partition means to divide up. Okay, so they divide up a niche. And like I said, I'll give you an example in a minute. The things ecosystem services. So one of the things I have tried to stress in this class is that preserving ecosystems and preserving the environment is not just about having nature to commune with, and although that's part of it down here, and having beautiful trees and stuff like that, we need it for many of our basic needs. And so even if you live the rest of your life inside in a room or whatever else, you need healthy ecosystems around you. Those things that ecosystems do specifically for us are known as ecosystem services. They include providing us with food and clean water, control of climate. We look at the fact that trees in particular absorb large amounts of carbon dioxide. Disease in a healthy aquatic ecosystem, a lot of the mosquito larvae and stuff that spread disease like malaria are kept under control. If it's a healthy aquatic environment, there's predators for their larvae. The nutrient cycles and crop pollination, of course, helps to feed us. Nutrient cycling is accomplished by bacteria in the soil, putting the nutrients back into the plants. And then once again, there is also the cultural, there's sometimes spiritual, some would say aesthetic benefits, as well as recreational benefits of having clean, natural, balanced ecosystems around. Some of your biggest environmentalists are hunters, hunting organizations. Now you can argue back and forth whether or not hunting is right or wrong, etc. But they are very strong in preserving land and therefore preserving organisms, because of course without them they wouldn't have game to hunt for. Niche partitioning, I said I was going to give you an example of this. The anole lizard. Right, you know what I'm talking about? The little ones we see all over the place around here? Are they funny? Is that? No, okay. The anole lizard is the one that you commonly see around here is the brown anole lizard. And that is actually a non-native species, kind of invasive.
You said it's invasive.
Yeah, I mean, it is, how much impact it's had is actually was overestimated at one point. And that is because when I was a kid, way back when, you know, dinosaurs, of course, were wandering around and stuff, but the only type of lizard, the only type of anole lizard that I would see, typically, were the bright green ones. You ever seen those? You ever seen the bright green anole lizards?
Don't they change color though?
They do, but they will, if they're in the trees and stuff, they'll be a bright green. That's the native species. That's Anolis carolinensis. Anyway, that's the native species that's here. And then in the 70s and into the 80s, the brown anolis, or the Anolis negris, or the Cuban anole is another word for it, native to the Caribbean area, they invaded. They probably got here on accident through people coming in, etc. And their population numbers grew very rapidly. Well, it looked like you didn't see as many green anoles anymore. And ecologists were concerned, and they thought that the brown anole lizard was seriously having an impact on the native anole lizard populations. But what had happened, actually, is they didn't look far enough, because what had happened was the green anole lizards just really, their population numbers decreased a little. You're going to have that happen. There's competition. But they moved up into the trees more. So their niche became, rather than having more of their fundamental niche was the trees, the brush, the ground, etc., their niche became more of a realized niche. So this shows both of those concepts. A realized niche of mainly feeding in the upper branches, upper parts of the trees and stuff like that. They're better camouflage because they can become a brighter green color, so if they need to get in the leaves and stuff. And the brown anole lizards, actually, you know, their primary niche, their primary habitat where they hunt and everything is down on the ground in the bushes and stuff like that. Sometimes they go up in the trees, but they don't usually stay there. So that's, like I said, the niche itself is the trees as a habitat of the trees and the ground and everything. And they divided up and said, all right, we'll take this part, you take that part. That way we don't have to fight over the food and habitat supply. And that's an example of niche partitioning. Nocturnal animals. This is an example of niche partitioning. Nocturnal animals made use of the fact that they could hunt at night and had other variety of organisms they could prey upon at night, so they didn't have to compete with those animals that were actively preying and not preying, you know, like actively predating, I say the technical term, other species during the day. So those are all examples of niche partitioning, and it makes the greatest of, use of the resources by doing that. Any questions? All right, seniors may go.